Now, so anyway, I was going for some coffee with Greg down at the Mercury Diner, and we were both big fans of how they give out those little double bubble comics. And, I had been collecting the comics for quite some time, which sort of inspired my doing the film. And Greg said, well, I've collected a few myself. And so I say, oh, really? Which ones? Because I had a mostly complete collection, but I was missing this one comic. You know how frustrating that is. And so he has some of these comics in his wallet, and he pulls them out. Lo and behold, it's that one comic that I was looking for. I mean, what are the odds of that? And so when I saw this comic, it immediately clicked that the whole thing had to be shot in Bulgaria. When I look back at it now, it's obvious because the pine forests they have there are simply beautiful. I mean, if you ever get a chance to go there, I think that you should really check out the pine forests, because they're just amazing, If you'll notice, at one point, they're in the forest, and there's the big tower behind them. This tower was originally built as a set for this movie called Albatross a few years back. So anyway, I was able to talk to the guy who made it. He's the most polite gentleman you will ever meet, I assure you. And when he heard what I had planned for the Pud movie, he said, David, by all means, you can use it. And so I said, great. And that is really how the skateboarding scene got into the film. So anyway, that's when I realized that in every Pud comic, there's a surface layer, but there's also like a thing underneath, if you know what I mean, that ties it all together. My first big breakthrough in Pud was when I was still practicing a transcendental meditation. So I was in the moment, right? And I felt this very strange feeling on my leg, and it was not the sort of strange feeling that I usually feel. No, it was more like a sort of wet and slobbering type of thing. And so I come out of it. Turns out, Jiminy's, I had gone to a party at John Malkovich's house the night before, and I guess I had forgotten to go home, and his dog had woken me up, and it wasn't my dog. I really didn't recognize it. And in fact, I soon found that I was inside of John Malkovich's head. That's where I had waken up. So anyway, this dog, I soon discovered, was John's hippocampus, which he liked to call it a hippopotamus, which I guess he thought it was funny, but I didn't really get the joke at the time. So in the end, that's how we got John Malkovich cast as Pud by the end of this. And he was perfect for the role, and the studio said that this would really be good. And so anyway, it was all fine and dandy, but 3 days before we started shooting, we had just gotten the set all done up nice, and what do you know, but John, he got a stomach bug. I don't know where it came from, but, well, we certainly had to think on our feet at that point. So anyway, we ended up getting this, he's like a rising pop singer back in, Latvia or wherever. So we get him in, and then the guys say, David, you can't cast this guy. His thumbs are on the wrong side. Well, so I say, well, I guess he has, some sort of skeletal thing, but I think that we could really make this work, because it really means that he can do all sorts of nice contortions. And, in fact, the girl we had cast as Daisy, turns out she was actually an expert in the Cirque du Soleil, and she really helped the rest of the cast get their finger contortions down. And I think that it's really added to the film as a whole. So in any case, we get this guy in, and we start doing a scene. Turns out he hasn't read the script, because he doesn't speak a word of English. And so what I ended up doing was, I got out the phrase book that I had purchased, back when I was doing Twin Peaks. And turns out there's this little index that allows you to get all sorts of little words, but they aren't really words, they're more just syllables, and then you feed them to the actors, and they can just spit out these syllables Italian style, and you dub in all the words afterwards. So I thought, okay, we'll just do that. And so we shoot a few scenes, and I get in listening to these syllables, and I think, wow. If you look at hyperrealism, the painter tries to get everything that's there, right? But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to get everything that's there, plus everything that isn't. Now, if you'll notice, in the Pud comics, nearly everyone, the sky is this eerie shade of pink. It's sort of this hot pink. And I was looking at it, and at first, I thought it was really just a printing thing. But then it hit me. Wham! It all must be an allusion to Day for Night by Francois Truffaut. It's this great movie. You should really see it. And so anyway, this idea of making a movie within a movie, but the very experience of all that was really influential for the Pud series, which is why I decided to carry on that pink sky motif. So when I went down and I told the guys that I wanted to key out the sky and put some stuff in there, well, they must have taken me for a nutcake. They said, well, we can't really do that. I mean, for one thing, it would completely detract from the actors. And I said, well, we shoot things on blue screens all the time, right? So the sky is blue, like most of the time. So why couldn't you just key that out? And so it turned out that was a pretty good idea. But it did make the lighting of everything pretty tricky. And this one scene where Pud's on the road and he's stopped and he's debating whether to throw the Necronomicon away. You really had to get the lighting really perfect for that shot to get the mood right. And the sunset in there, well, you know how sunsets in California can be. We had to be there for 4 days just to get this right shot in the right way, and we brought in some lights, but they weren't really doing it. They were really clashing with the ambiance. The whole crew, we were staying at this little Motel 12, I think it was. Yeah. Just this beautiful place. The owner, very nice man, and he noticed that we were trying to get the sunset shots, and it turns out that he had been a nature photographer years before he had bought the hotel. And he said, I know where we can get the best sunsets. And it was the weirdest thing. We had just packed up everything to leave for another location. But we said, okay, let's go out there. And what do you know? It was perfect. Bang! The sun was right there in the exact right spot. So we got the cameras out. And what do you know? It turned out exactly right. And so I felt really satisfied by that. When I first saw some of these scenes in a dream that I had, what I'm getting right now is the exact same sort of vibe that I got then. It's kind of confused. So I realized that sometimes you just have to let the words go, if you know what I mean. I really don't think that the film will ever be finished. It's what you might call a living movie.